Continuing on where we left off, what we're going to go ahead and start on is actually converting some of our stuff to classes. So for example, our player, its hand here, we want to actually make a player class. And that will house things such as our wins, our losses, draws, and stuff like that. We can easily add that information in. And that's about as far as I'm going to go with classes. I might make a static library for these functions, but just to keep it clean, but we'll see. So let's go ahead and go over here to our header files, right click, add a class, and let's call it player. And to keep in line with Unreal Engine, let's call it a player, because that's how it kind of indexes all its actors, even though this isn't technically an actor. So here we have our player class. Do a public section and create a constructor. Like so. Let's make a private section. Let's do int wins, or better yet, unsigned int wins, and we're gonna have one for losses and draws. Let's do, we need to figure out a way to get our hand. So our hand is just an enum, and that can be stored inside of a player, and same thing goes with our result, because that's pretty much everything that, that's all that really needs to be accessed from there. So what we can do here is, well, do I want to do that, or let's see. We could make a precompiled header for this, but I'm going to be doing it the quick way, even though that wouldn't take very long anyhow, and just move it into player.h, and then we're going to include a player.h, and that'll solve all these issues here so we can compile. So here in our player class, we're going to have eHand. Let's do current hand. And if we wanted to, we could have our previous hand and stuff like that stored, but it's not really necessary. And then we're going to have our getters. So int, or unsigned int, get wins. We're going to return wins. Actually, let's set this up as forced. No, wait, no, that's a macro in Unreal Engine. Right. And then we have get losses, return losses, and then we have a get draws, which simply returns draws. And then we have our hand. So we want a setter and a getter for this. So void set hand, eHand hand, and a getter. So eHand get hand, return current hand. And actually we can use the set hand right in here. So current hand equals hand. I guess we really don't need a DPP for this, since this is really all that's going to be contained in the class. But we'll just do wins equals 0, losses equals 0, and draws equals 0. So now we want to add a simple way to add a win, loss, and draw. So void 1, void loss, and void draw. Like so. Then here we just want to do, well, increment these. So plus plus draw, plus plus win, and plus plus losses, or loss. What are you complaining about? Spelled those wrong. There we go. So let's compile. We're good to go. We have our getter and our setters, way to increment our wins, loss, and draws. And yeah, we have our way to set our hand and get our hand. So that way we can easily compare. So back in our main here, we can convert these to static functions, so we can make a class dedicated to this and just have a bunch of gameplay related stuff in it. So I'll show you how to do that real quick. So in header files, we're going to add a new item. We're just going to make this on the header. Let's call it, what would be a good name? Game statics. And inside here, we're going to include, well, actually we're going to include everything in the main, like this. Then we're going to go ahead and create a class. So class, let's do game statics. And I'm going to make these public, but we're going to copy all of these functions here. Well, just these two. And move them into game statics, like so. And put static before the function. Just like that. I'm going to compile. We're going to have these issues here. So now we just want to go ahead and include game statics.h. And now all we have to do is game statics, : get user hand, and game statics, : get user hand again. So now this all works the same. So blah 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 doesn't work. Do rock, it works. And that's all good to go. And our header, or our .cpp, is empty. We have our, our gameplay related functions. And we also have our player class, which we need to go ahead and actually create. So we know we're going to have two players, ourselves and our AI/computer that we're versing. We want to go ahead and create those. So a player equals new player. And we want to equals new a player, sorry. We also want one for the AI, so a player bot equals new a player, like so. And that's all we need. So what we want to do is set our player's hand for this here. So we're going to remove this. We're just going to set player, set hand. Then we have the hand we want to set it, which in our case is going to be our gameplay statics, get user hand, like so. Then we want our loop here, so while player get hand equals invalid, we want to continue to do the same thing and set our hand. So we moved all that into the player class. So we have that information stored there. So let's test it. Invalid and valid. So that is working correctly. So once we get our user's hand, we want to go ahead and get our bot's hand. So bot set hand, game statics. We're going to do generate hand. Should be showing info above. I don't know why it wasn't. Anyhow. So now we have our bot's hand. Now what we want to do is we need to figure out which hand is the winner. So, or draw and whatever. So back in our game statics.h, we want to create another function. It's going to be static. Let's make it return e result, get winner. And we're going to pass in, well, we can lower the amount of info by passing in the, what do you call it? The, just the hand that we're throwing. So in Unreal Engine, this is something that we would, in a multiplayer game, be performed on the server. So because we would be performing on the server, we have to transfer data across our network. And we want to generally minimize that amount of data. So what we could do is send our entire player class and call get hand. So we would be sending in our player class and the AI class. However, this will be handled a little bit differently because replication would be just, I'm trying to explain this simply as I can, which would be all of the information inside of a player getting sent across the network. Instead, we could simply send two hands, so just two enums, and that's a very small amount of data, especially compared to a class. Well, two classes. So this is going to take in two enums. So e hand, player hand, and e hand, bot hand, like so. And we can also, because we don't need to have copies, we can just access them directly. And I think we're doing the same thing there. Yep. So what we can do here is figure out the winner. So let's see. We have to have a bunch of logic here. So, well, if else statements. So if player hand, player hand equals rock. So e hand rock, and bot hand equals e hand paper, then the bot wins. So return e result, lose. Else if, and I'm going to be making just a bunch of these. So I'm going to copy this, and that's how we're going to paste it. So here's where we're just going to have our other comparisons. So if the player hand is, well, let's do the rocks first. So the player hand is rock, and the bot hand is also a rock. We return e result, draw. And if the player's hand is a rock and the bot hand is scissors, we return win. Okay, now we can switch it up to these others. So if the player's hand is paper and the bot hand is rock, we're going to return a win. If the bot hand for paper, or for the player's paper, is also paper, we're going to return a draw. If it is scissors, we're going to return a loss. Now for scissors, so we're going to return a loss because we're comparing our scissors to the rock. If we compare the scissors to paper, we win. And if we, compare scissors to scissors, it's a draw. So here is our, our setup there. So otherwise, we're just simply going to return a draw. So your result, draw. So that's if all of this somehow fails. Well, I guess we don't actually need the else's, but I think it looks cleaner. So we have our get winner function set. So all we have to do now that we have our hands is e result, play result equals, or let's just call it result, equals game statics, get winner. Now we need the player's hand. So player get hand and the bot's hand. So bot get hand. And what do I do there? Okay, I'm being dumb here. I convert that to screw it. I'm tired enough. I don't care. I'm just gonna make copies. Keep it simple. So here we have the results here. So now what we can do is perform a switch on the result. So switch result, case E result. When we're going to do std cout u1. And we want to also kind of figure out a way to handle the logic here. So let's do, we'll just do everything in brackets. It's only 3, so it's not going to look too ugly. So std cout u1 and \n for a new line. Then we want to do player. Let's do 1 and bot loss. Now we have our loss and our draw. So loss and draw. Oh, lose. So when we lose, we're going to just say you lose. We're going to call loss and call 1 on the bot. And for the draw, we're going to do draw. And we're just going to call draw on the player and the bot. And then we need our default. Nothing. Oh, we don't actually need a default, so it doesn't matter. Okay, I just want to indent these in. And we should be good to go. We should have our rock, paper, scissors game. All right, let's try it out. So, enter in something invalid. Let's enter in rock. You lose. Draw. What we didn't do, because it printed out you lose and draw, is because we forgot to break out of the switch statement. So, let's go ahead and place our breaks. And we can also print out the hands really quick. So let's do print hands. We can even make it simpler with a example here. Well, another function. So static void print hands. Make it take in the 2 hands. Or we can also be lazy as well and just make it take in the players, because I already explained kind of why we just did the hands here. Just make it a little bit simpler. But we're going to make it just take in the players. So a player, do player, make it a pointer, and we're going to do a player bot. So we're going to be printing the hands. So std cout player get hand. And then let's do it on a new line. So bot get hand. We're going to end the line. And then I'm just going to end the line again. So it'll be player, show their hand, new line, bot, show the hand, and then 2 new lines to kind of indicate that it's over. So we have U1, and at the end of this, we're going to print out the results. So right after the switch statement, we're going to do game statics, print hands, player, bot, and that's it. Now let's try it. Let's do rock. Right. U1, player 0. So we picked rock, which is 0. And the player did scissors. Let's do rock again. It was a draw. We picked rock, they picked rock. And let's do rock again. They did it again. Rock, draw. And this time they did paper while we did rock, so we lost. So let's do paper. We won that one. And let's do scissors, which we won on that one because they picked paper. So I'm going to do a quick little run through of our program here. because this is all that we have in our main function for a functional rock, paper, scissors game. So we have our game loop. We can make options to end it as well if we want, but that's not needed. But we have 2 players here. Each of them, one's for the bot, one's for the player, as stated by the names. And obviously, they have the functionality built behind them, so for getting the wins, losses, setting the hand, getting the hands, just storing the info that we need, which we could easily make a function that prints out all of the information, such as the wins, losses, and such, effortlessly because we are storing that info here. Then inside of here, we want to go ahead and get the player's hand. So we can also simplify this a little bit better. So in the constructor of a player, we're going to do current hand equals eHand invalid. So we're going to set it to invalid by default. Then what we're going to do is we're already getting the hand while it's invalid. We're just going to get rid of this top line, and it's going to work the same because it's already invalid. So it's going to ask us, and rock. Oh, there, we just bugged it. So it's skipping right over, and it's going to continually run. So that's a problem. What we need to do is set it after the hand has been played to both be invalid. So we can create a game static function, which is essentially going to do the same thing. We get rid of the stuff inside it. Let's do reset hands. So player set hand eHand invalid. Bot set hand invalid. And then we're just going to call game statics reset hands player bot. That way we can specifically reset the hands when we want, which it really didn't clean it up necessarily. It did in my head, but then I messed up. So now, as you can tell, it works and everything's back to normal. But we have a static library here that simply contains the basic info or functionality that we want. So we can generate the hand for the AI. We can get the user's input and figure out the hand based off of their input. We can dictate the winner based off of this function. We can print the hands. We can reset the hands and all that kind of stuff. And that drastically cleans up our main CPP file here, because inside of here, we don't need a bunch of stuff. We don't need random. We don't need the string. The only thing we need is just IOStream for inputting or outputting these couts here, which can honestly be handled through here or inside of the get winner, however we want to have it set up, and so on. So for example, we could have it print result, and that'll just print out you won, you lost, etc. through a simple static function, and clean that up even more. And that would be done literally just right through, right in here. We would just pass in the result. So we'd pass in result to the function. So that's all there is really to it. Took us about a little over 40 minutes to make. And yeah, it's pretty straightforward, but hopefully it kind of gets you into the mindset of thinking kind of in terms of game development and not just an application, because in some ways they are a little bit different, because it's not an eternal or not forever running program, but I don't know how to really explain it other than just when we dive into it you'll just kind of see. But hopefully this kind of helps prepare you for it if you even followed through. But anyhow, this will be the last video before we jump into actually working inside of Unreal Engine. So now that this is over, I will see you in the next video.